Hi everyone, we're back. We just came out of a session on empowering women-led agri-tech startups in the Middle East, which was really inspiring. And now we're on with an investment success story. So to tell us about it, we have Ahmed Fouad, who's the managing director of C Ventures, and one of the companies in C Ventures' portfolio, Yodawi, who's represented by Karim, the CEO. And to moderate the conversation, we have Ahmed Mashed from Azimut Egypt Asset Management. Take it away, Ahmed.
Yes, thank you, Melody. But I'm Ahmed Youssry from Scale Up Venture. Ahmed Murshid is traveling now, so he's not going to join us. Thank you very much. Uh, so, Karim and Ahmed, this Yodawy is a big success story. You got funded from C Venture, Algebra, Middle East Venture Partners, and you're one of the entrepreneurs that people look for as a success story. So, I will start with Karim, and if you can tell us a few words about Yodawy for people tuning from outside and who don't know Yodawy. Please tell us what Yodawy do and what do you offer to your customers.
Sure. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you for having us. Yodawy is basically the Middle East's first pharmacy benefits platform. Our mission is quite kind of straightforward. We want to make sure people get their medications in a timely and cost-efficient manner. For that, we understood from day one that the future is in medical insurance. This is the kind of future we're building the company for. And so we've created these deep integrations with insurance companies. We've created a marketplace of around 2,000 pharmacies and basically made sure that every possible blocker in the background is removed to make sure people get their medications on time without hassle and without even having to visit the pharmacy using our kind of last mile delivery systems.
Thank you, Karim. Thank you. That's amazing. And we have Ahmed Fouad from C Ventures, which is a corporate venture capital here in Egypt. Uh, I will ask Ahmed to introduce quickly what is C Ventures and what's your connection to the corporate that you represent, and quickly is what defines your thesis as a venture capital.
Sure. Hi, Ahmed. Hi, everyone. And hi, Karim. Pleasure to be on this panel. C Ventures is a corporate venture capital firm. It's owned by Commercial International Bank, CIB. It's actually the first CVC owned by a bank in the region. And we've been operating in local, regional, and international VC space for the past 3 years. Currently, our mandate is primarily to invest in Egyptian startups, and we focus on seed and A. Originally, we were primarily focused on financial technology, fintech, but with the evolution that happened in the Egyptian ecosystem, coupled with our belief of how fintech should be defined, we've widened our vertical focus to include other tech-enabled businesses. So we're currently basically focusing more on the Egyptian market and leveraging both our corporate backing from one hand and our experience throughout the past 3 years in the global VC ecosystems.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you. So I'll go to Karim and ask you, tell us about the first interactions with C Venture. C Venture is one of your first investors. So how did you meet Ahmed, or did you meet some other people in C Venture? Who broke the introductions?
Sure.
Tell us the story that people would like to hear and maybe learn from it.
Sure. So obviously, typically, as someone starting up a company, you would, like many entrepreneurs, basically create a long list of all the possible VCs, understand their ticket sizes, and kind of go about it very systematically. I knew Shady Tadros, who was part of C Ventures at the time. We had a kind of a common relationship, a friend, and C Ventures was just starting up. And for us, it was interesting to kind of also learn a little bit how kind of a corporate VC would be like. This was the only corporate VC we knew in Egypt, at least. It was credible. And so really, I think the first visit was either probably in our office. I think they came to, at the time we had a small apartment in Yodawy, basically. It was actually my grandmother's apartment, and we were using it. It was empty. So they came to visit, and it was a very pleasant interaction. You can tell immediately from the first meeting if you have good chemistry with the team or not.
Okay, that's great. So the grandmother apartment is the Egyptian equivalent for Silicon Valley garage. And
That's correct. I think yeah, exactly. I think garages in Cairo would be a little bit challenging. But yeah, so this is we basically used the space that was available pretty much.
That's great. That's a great story to tell. So Ahmed, the first impression that you took for when you visited the apartment and you visited Yodawy, what was your first impression getting to know them? How do you feel when you enter that place or the office?
I think as Karim said, the chemistry was there. We loved the team. We saw the passion. We saw how much these guys are. They know what they're talking about. They know quite well the problem. They know how to solve it, and they were very much focused on building the right building blocks in order to reach this vision. And accordingly, when you get to know someone and you see how the chain of thought that he's going through in order to achieve what he wants to achieve, you get to know him better. And accordingly, in from the first, I think, meeting, we just fell in love with the team and the passion and the way forward, and we were very excited to join their journey and to be a small part of their success story. So I think it's belief in the team and the capabilities to do what they claim that they will do.
So I'll continue with a little bit of follow-up question for Ahmed, and I'll ask you. You are a corporate venture capital, so basically you have a mandate that this is supposed to go along with CIB missions and directions for the future. So at that time, going to health tech / insure tech startup, what is the synergies that you identified from day one, or do you identify such synergies?
Sure. Let me just start by telling you something. Yes, we are a corporate venture capital firm. Yes, we are owned by CIB. However, the collaboration between startups and CIB is something that is in parallel to our investment track. So we have two tracks. We have the investment track and we have the collaboration track. And basically what we're trying to do here is to bridge the collaboration track as much as possible on best effort basis. And again, we understand from day one that it's not a one size fits all. Corporates are corporate, startups are startups, and we're actually trying to have the benefit of both worlds and connect both worlds together. That's for one. And in the greater scheme of things, InsurTech is part of the fintech playbook. So again, there was it ticked that box, and again, potential synergies, because again, CIB has a lot of connections in the insurance market. We used to have, CIB used to have its own insurance company. So again, there was a box there, and so we identified from the first hand how deep the problem that Karim wants to solve, and we thought we can help him in doing this, in solving this problem.
Okay, so back to Karim. I'll ask you, Karim, about when you start pitching Ahmed and C Ventures and other venture capitals, uh, what was your biggest fear at that time? This was your first time to approach venture capital at that time. So what was you afraid of, and what was your ambitious targets that you might, I'm overstretching, I might do it, I might not.
Okay. Look, the fear of anyone kind of starting up is that people either don't buy into the problem that's being solved, right? They don't see, or I think one of the most common issues is that people either don't understand exactly what the business is about. So I think from my side, I was always worried whether I'm making it 100% clear as to what problem we're trying to solve. Um, there is always the fear of uncertainty around how the business is going to evolve, which now looking back is legitimate because you cannot know exactly how the next 2 to 3 years following kind of the seed investment will look like. So there is a lot of let's put it in kind of politically correct terms, intelligent forecasting. Okay.
Yes.
I came from a background that allowed me to. I worked in financial modeling and kind of for a long time before kind of starting the company. So I was comfortable with financial projections, coming out with a kind of a view of the business, and I was to a large extent, I won't say conservative, but realistic. I never, I think, oversold kind of the what we would achieve. Never, and I think this also resonated with Emad a lot. We were always very kind of disciplined around financial projections.
Okay, that's great. So the story of Yodawi evolved from having Series A to Series B. You have like 3 rounds of funding. I'm correct?
No, we had so far 2 rounds only.
2 rounds, Series A and Series B.
Yes,
And
we should have called the first one seed, but
okay, so the 2 rounds both have C Ventures on it, and C Venture decided to double down on their investment in Yodawi. So, Ahmed, what growth metrics that Yodawi achieved that really sold you to invest more and double down on your bet on Yodawi?
I believe it's two things again. The growth on the ground, Yodawy was achieving fantastic growth, and coupled with the potential, because again, knowing Karim and the team very well, they were just scratching the surface. And another thing that I think all investors bought in, and they were absolutely right to do it, is how Karim is handling, and the team, of course, and the co-founders and all of the Yodawy team and family. How are they adapting to changes? How are they solving problems? How are they bridging gaps? How are they doing it? The way, because again, as Karim said, you don't know actually what's going to come. Even and what's more challenging is that you want to grow. You always want to grow, and you always want to achieve. However, this growth and achievements, they come with their own set of challenges, and the real success is not only about growth. It's about understanding the challenges, overcoming these challenges, and moving on. And I think again, Karim and Yodawy's family, as I always like to call them, Yani, and I'm really honored to be part of their family as well. Did a fantastic job in doing that, and they are still doing it, despite of how big they become. They're still doing it, and this is a culture that is very positive. It's very yani it's geared to success. So I think any rational investor would only double down on Yodawy. Yani this is the least thing that we can do to help you.
So maybe Karim can tell us a little bit about what was the challenge that you think overcoming it defined Yodawi, Did what's contribution that C Venture might have participated in this solving this challenge or overcoming it?
Sure. To be honest with you, I cannot say there's one challenge, because really kind of at every stage of the process, there are different challenges. When you're starting out the company, the biggest challenge is to raise the first round, I believe. Just kind of regardless of how much traction you have, regardless of how much you've made being kind of self-funded or just kind of running on Steam, typically this is the first kind of challenge. From there on, you need to prove your case, go for the kind of multiples of growth. So first challenge was to actually raise funding, get the right investors on board, and I believe we've done that in the first round. Second challenge is really, okay, now we have the money, we have everything, now we need to actually show that we can deliver, that we can grow. So it became about acquiring customers, it became about driving up the number of orders and delivering against what we set out to do. And now the challenge is, okay, now we've entered the scale-up phase of the business. Now it's about managing the operating model. Now it's about mobilizing resources in the right direction. Now it's about going from a few 100,000 orders to a few million orders. And really the challenge, I think, changes as you go. And managing a 10-man team is different than now managing a 300-man team. So it really never stops, to be honest with you. You're constantly kind of being faced with a new challenge that you need to respect and treat as if it's day zero, really.
Okay. That's a political answer that actually resonate with a lot of startups challenges, that all of them are challenges that you have to treat from day zero. Okay, I have another set of questions, but before I go to them, I would encourage our listeners and viewers. We now have, if I see correctly on the screen, it's more than 1,000 viewers. So please, guys, if you have any questions, post them on the Facebook channel, in the Facebook stream, or the LinkedIn stream, and the Q&A, we will direct those questions to our esteemed viewers. Let's jump to the future. Let's try to understand what the future holds. What the future holds, Karim, for the health tech industry in Egypt, as we have seen the copycats in the past, but now companies are getting funded. Now we have money flowing in the market, and it's our time to innovate. So, what is the question clearly? What is Yodawy roadmap in the coming future?
Okay, maybe let's talk first about the medtech landscape overall.
Okay.
So maybe let me first disagree with the first statement that there were a lot of copycats. Actually, there were very few copycats, unfortunately. And we are bound to, especially when it comes to medtech, to catch up significantly when it comes to Egypt. So we are a bit behind when it comes to kind of how technology is applied in healthcare in general. And in Egypt, it is even more magnified because a lot of the medical provider side doesn't have digital medical records. So the digital infrastructure is not there to kind of accelerate a whole range of other services that could be available if this is in place. So startups in Egypt have a much tougher road, I think, to execution in general, because there's no existing platform that they can plug into. There's no standardization, no digital medical exchange that they can plug into and offer services. They have to go build their own infrastructures, which is expensive, very, very tough. So the barrier to entry, in my view, when it comes to Egypt at the moment, is still quite high. I wish there were more copycats. Unfortunately, it's difficult for there to be copycats because the environment is very, very different. And when we talk about medtech, we need to look at medtech in emerging markets with low penetration of medical records in order to see what is possible. I think over the course of the next couple of years, you'll see a lot of consumer-facing services, a lot of marketplaces that are bridging kind of the provider side with the payer side, whether it's bookings, labs, people booking all kinds of things. I think there's going to be a growing influence of medical insurance. more and more, having an insurance angle, in my view, is going to serve as a significant advantage or differentiator for the startup. I want to say it's important, but I cannot predict how quickly this will be developing. Basically, startups that are serving the provider side, not only the consumer side, which has been, to a large extent, a graveyard, to be honest, for anyone who's tried previously. Because even in more mature markets, unless it is enforced by regulation or incentives and so on, typically medical providers are slow to adapt innovation or technology. So my expectation is to see a lot of consumer-facing apps and kind of more friction or interaction points with insurance in general, as it becomes the norm in the country over the next couple of years.
And you are leading that space. We look forward for that. So Ahmed, you invest, our C Venture invest in the fintech. Yodawi, as we see, is a hybrid model between fintech and medtech. So, what do you think is coming for fintech first, and what sort of hybrid models you are in the look for?
Sure. I think what's coming in fintech, because again, fintech is a finance in general, is a very, very heavy regulated industry. And accordingly, moving and developing fintechs is not quite easy, because if you want to do something that is meaningful, you have to play by the book. And in the digital space, not all these financial services are still having a playbook to go with. So again, this is one challenge to fintech. However, as we all see in reports and in the actual ecosystem, despite these challenges, fintechs are evolving, and they are evolving because again, the new fintech model is built more on collaboration rather than doing it all on your own. So you'll find the majority of fintechs are collaborating with banks or non-banking FIs in order to provide the services. This is how things are now defined in the market. And I don't expect that this is going to take a much long time. Yani. It's going to happen sooner than later. Regulations will catch up, and it's already, I think the regulators have been doing a very good job in trying to make fintech regulations catching up with the development in the market. So you'll be seeing more of fintechs that are doing things more independently, providing their own set of services. And the game will be on convenience rather than just providing the service. It's about how you provide the service, how relevant it is, how convenient it is to the consumer. I expect in the fintech specifically, or I hope to see more on consumer savings, because the majority that you see is basically on the other side of the coin, which is on lending and buy now pay later and all of this good stuff, which is great. However, on the saving part, and when it comes to consumer saving and innovation, we're still, I think, lagging behind. I think open banking is coming again, and once open banking is introduced, then the market will be much more bigger to these startups. Whoever will be ready from now will have an advantage. More broadly on the landscape in Egypt, I think Egypt is so blessed with its talent. On the other hand, Egypt has lots of problems, and this is each and every problem is actually an opportunity for a startup to arise. So we still have a long way to go in multiple sectors, being agri-tech, ed-tech, you name it. And we're still, the startup ecosystem here in Egypt is still scratching the surface, and the potential is unmatched. So again, I'm very positive of what the ecosystem will bring in the coming year or two.
That is great. So consumer startups and open banking, consumer savings and open banking are going to be the things that you look for. And Karim told us about consumer health tech, as this is what the space will hold. And there are a lot of challenges that actually are opportunities for the startups. So, my next question would be uh, what are the challenges for the ecosystem? Let's try to name some of the challenges that the startups can work on. Uh, Karim already mentioned that a unified database that startups can build API on top of it is something that's lacking. What other, Karim, what other challenges that we need courageous entrepreneurs to work on?
In which sector? Healthcare, you mean, or?
Yeah, in healthcare and insurtech. Yani basically you are now expert in both, so you can tell
Sure,
us.
sure. No, look, I think ultimately, okay, so I think every possible medical service that you can think of has kind of a digitization potential, whether it's on the booking space or even kind of being able to provision the service online. So I think the teleconsultation space is very, very interesting. It's an obvious opportunity. It's something that has to come and kind of become more integrated into the day-to-day of Egyptians in general. So I foresee this as something that's going to develop significantly. We've seen a few home lab startups already kind of make their first debuts to the market. So I think that's going to be very interesting as well. I think there are going to be specialist startups that focus on disease management, that link multiple services in the context of a specific disease, whether it's diabetes, hypertension, and so on. So I think that's also a big opportunity. I think you're going to see the first generation of software as a service platforms that enter kind of and offer providers some basic kind of platforms for small clinics, polyclinics, and so on, and try to offer consumers some kind of double-sided service in the process. Although this is a very difficult play, in my opinion. I think on the insurance side, we've seen interesting startups already, kind of the first generation online brokerages. This is kind of the obvious opportunity. Usually it starts on the sales side, right? You have players like us that are integrating as value-added service providers with insurance companies, whether it's medical insurance or other types. So yeah, I think this is the kind of the first generation of startups that you're going to see in the market. These are the obvious opportunities. And if you look at how similar markets started originally, it starts with the kind of infrastructure plays, right? The kind of obvious plays. Yeah. And then it goes down to more specialists and so on. Although I think Egypt for the foreseeable future is going to remain an infrastructure play market, less on kind of niches and specialist players.
Okay, that is great. I can second that as someone who meets a lot of startups coming to our deal flow. So yes, that's actually correct. These are the startups that I'm watching now on this stage. I think uh, you can help us in analyzing them later on another
Sure.
stage. But that's amazing observation. Thank you, Karim, for it. So, Ahmed, for the fintech hybrids, there are challenges now. You named a few. You named that the legislation are catching up, and once we saw open banking and consumer saving, this will be another game. So I would pick your brain about the future when we have open banking, because it seems on the horizon. They are in the kitchen, they are discussing it, and it's coming. So what kind of startup would you look for when there is open banking here in Egypt?
Well, يعني, I think it's not a typical startup as in itself. The open banking and applying is a game changer, not only for fintechs but for the startups in general, because the ability to leverage data and develop products and services based on this financial data, which was not availed before, is a game changer. And again,
Yes.
it's not a specific startup that I would be looking for. I would be looking for startups and founders and teams that are building on how to leverage the available financial data and serve with using such data the customers, because again, as I was telling you, it's about convenience, it's about relevance. As we've been discussing the hybrid model, I believe that the right way of putting financial technology and financial services is embedding fintech within each and every vertical that is providing services meaningful to a specific set of sector, especially when we take the overall country's direction of financial inclusion. And if you want to go to financial inclusion and really serve the unbanked or underbanked, whatever you want to call them, is by, I believe, by giving the financial services to people whenever they actually need it and whenever it's relevant. So you can find in health tech and insurtech consumers, and this wealth of data on consumers, we can analyze and then start adding on financial services to them. If you're talking about platforms that are serving blue collars, again, the same scenario can apply. Depends.
Okay. Okay, so you were looking for the startup that use the data, the open banking data will offer us wealth of data that can serve blue collars, can serve consumers, and can leverage new products that we don't know about from those data. So, with that, I would like also to remind our viewers that please post your questions to the panel on Facebook or LinkedIn, on YouTube, and we'll get to them. So, until that, let's discuss a little bit with you, Karim. What do you advise young entrepreneurs uh, going to the seed stage? What kind of what's the most relevant advice that you heard and you think you should repeat to the startups, or something new that you would like to tell them that's never mentioned before?
Look, I think the literature around kind of the typical advice on when to start has been kind of very well developed at this stage.
Yes.
Maybe in Egypt, more specifically, I think you can almost divide very clearly people who are starting businesses into two groups. It's either more seasoned kind of professionals who have 10 plus years of experience, or it's relatively kind of university graduates and so on. I think the advice is very, very different. But I think I'll talk about the group of people who have 10 plus years of experience, because this is, let's say, the people I've been meeting. And I think they should typically try to avoid the corporate approach to product development and so on. Kind of they really kind of get it sometimes wrong with the art of the MVP. It's just to start simple, not necessarily to make a 5-year financial model for something that hasn't gone really to market yet. They tend to go into corporate mode, a lot of planning, a lot of Excels, a lot of so on. Whereas really it's about the seed. It's about actually launching one product to test, to iterate, and so on. And starting very simple and seeing whether the thesis is correct or not. So more of an agile, iterative approach towards building the company or even deciding whether it's worth their time or not.
So for those group of people 10 years plus, please unlearn what you learn in corporate and try to do it another way with an agile methodology.
Yes, maybe just you need to be very clear on what you don't know. I think people start out with hypotheses or even just opinions around products they haven't tested. They haven't really gone out to the consumer. And the corporate mindset of consumer research, in my view, in the new startup world doesn't really work. You need to launch the product to find out whether it's actually working or not. It's very difficult to predict before that.
Okay. So Ahmed, what sort of advice would you give a young startup coming to pitch you their startup that they think they fit your thesis? What sort of advice would you give them? Would give it to them?
Again, these advices are depends on the founders themselves. But again, you need to be very clear about the problem that you're solving. You need to know quite well the pain point and how to solve it without building too much theories. You need to have the right team on board. Or again, the start of the right team and the mentality. You need to understand how you're going to the market with your first product. You need to understand this part well. I don't expect a founder to know how it's going to be after 3 or 5 years. I mean, it doesn't work as such. If someone's coming to tell me that I'm going to be Amazon after 5 years, I don't think that Amazon's founder knew that when he was founding Amazon.
Okay.
So basically, what you need to understand to really know is what's your first go-to market, how are you going to do it, and do you know enough about the problem and the market in order to launch it, and that you have what it takes to do it on the ground. This is my bit of a different advice than all the pitching and fancy presentations, because we all see that and that doesn't bring an investor. It's not about that.
Okay, so that's quite different for people. So people know your markets, know your talents and teams, and your short-term plan, and come to Ahmed and pitch him, and you will both figure out the long term. So, Karim, what is smart money did for you? You had a lot of venture capitalists that are known in the market. They are the biggest in the market. C Ventures, Jebra, Mina Venture Partners. So, what did these entities did for Yodawy? How did they accelerate your growth?
No, look, it's very important to have smart people on board that can help you navigate challenges, that can help you kind of think about the business, focus on what actually matters. So strategic direction is important. The good VCs will also understand when to interfere, when to help. When a big part of what a VC does who's on board is also networking, is to introduce you to the next set of VCs, is to help you grow the business, attract the right investors, and so on. They will help you possibly even navigate governments and local regulations through their access, through their LPs, and so on. So smart money can do a lot for you, or more specifically, smart people that you work with can help you advance tremendously, and it's certainly not about the invested capital, because as you can see nowadays, capital is cheap actually out there in the market.
Okay, so I will have a follow-up question for Karim about this. Today's capital is available, so good startups can have their pick. How do you pick your investor?
Look, it's a luxury for me to be able to pick my investors. In reality, there's ultimately a list of less than 50 VCs in the region, right?
Yes.
It's not that there are a few thousands and I'm choosing. And ultimately, the ones that are able to carry certain ticket sizes are even less than 50. I think it reduces to a group that is probably 10 or so. Ultimately, in my view, it's about the chemistry and the people and what you think they can do for you over the course of the next 24 months, not even longer term.
Okay.
And it boils down to this, right? It boils down to do I feel comfortable working with these people, right? And I think this is the first question you have to answer, because once you start this journey, you will be working together a lot. And two, how can they help me navigate the next 4 or 5 challenges that the business is facing now, right? Every VC that comes on board has a tour of duty. And then as the company grows, there's the next tour of duty and so on. And as the company grows, even the kind of the profile of VCs that are sitting on the cap table and the board and so on changes. And the challenges grow as the company grows. Initially, it's just setting up in Egypt. Then it's the Middle East. Then it's more of a global outlook. And the technical problems that you face are different. The challenges, the pressure is different. So I think entrepreneurs have to really ask themselves 2 questions. One, do I like working with this person? And 2, are there 2 to 3 very concrete challenges that you can help with, not just kind of high level kind of direction.
Okay. With that, our time is concluded, and I would ask you for like final thoughts. Ahmed, Karim, do you want to share final thoughts with our audience before I give it to our MC, Ahmed?
Well, my final thoughts can be as follows. This is a partnership, guys. This is not a hit and run. So a true partner, as we always say, takes 2 to tango. So you need to have this partnership mentality in place. We at C Ventures, we call them family again, and that means a lot. We do care about the businesses that we invest in, the people that are running these businesses. We do care. It's not about investing and just drawing in the back seat. We try to support whenever relevant, whenever needed. You don't need a VC that is micromanaging or even calling you twice a day to see what the next click you did is. So I believe for both investors and founders, it's about having a true partner to walk on this very difficult journey to succeed. It needs chemistry, it needs guts, and it needs passion, and it needs to be really genuine about what you're doing. It's not just a job, neither for us or for the founder. That's how I see it.
Well, thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Karim. It takes 2 to tango. This is the gist of it. Now you heard it. Look for your investors. And now I leave the floor to our MC, Melody.
Hi again. Thank you so much to all of you. It's so interesting to hear practical stories of collaboration like this one. And I commend the Vested Summit team for bringing together such relevant speakers today. So thank you so much. Coming up, we have a mindful break. In order to be able to have an impact in the world, we also need to take time to recharge. And that's what we have next. So come back in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.